why do narcissists idealize sociopaths or glorify them or want to be like them? I've seen this happening a lot, and it's really interesting to me. And this is my theory. And again, as I always say, all my narcissist stuff is just my own opinion from real life. I'm a life coach, but I'm not a psychologist. But I have known narcissists and sociopaths who admit to being that. Not my clients, but just, living in NYC, there's a fair amount. They live everywhere, though, by the way. It's not just in NYC. So basically, in my opinion, a sociopath has no empathy. That part of their brain is just broken. It does not light up on brain scans. Narcissists have way reduced empathy. It mostly doesn't work. But from what I've seen, there can be kind of a flicker of empathy going on there, depending on the situation and what's going on in their lives. Sometimes narcissists actually act empathetic, and yeah, sometimes they're faking it, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes they actually do have a bit of empathy. It's not reliable. It comes and goes. And we know this is the case too because sociopaths are shameless. They have no shame. That's what makes them a sociopath. So they don't have to lie about reality to themselves and to others. Narcissists do. Narcissists are constantly writing one lie narrative after the next in order to deal with the fact that reality is not treating them like a god, like they expect. So they constantly have to make up lies and try their best to believe them. Oh, they just didn't crown me Prince of the Universe because they're jealous of me, or Princess of the Universe, or whatever. They're constantly making up these lies all the time. And a big part is convincing other people, getting other people to agree with them, blah, blah, blah. Sociopaths don't do that. They live in reality. They know that they're not the god of the universe, but they would like to be, but they know that they're not. So there's a big difference. Sociopaths are actually living in reality and narcissists are not. They're living in a fantasy world that is supported by lie narratives that they tell themselves and get others to agree with, which is why they surround themselves with people who agree with them, and they cannot stand criticism because any criticism, that whole world of lies can just crumble. So even though sociopaths don't do that, they know the cold, hard reality. They face it, they see it, they live in that reality. But they still have a big ego, and they still would like to rule the world, but they know that they don't right now. So that's a big difference right there. So the sociopaths, because they don't have any empathy at all, they don't have any shame, they don't need to prop themselves up with false lie narratives. Narcissists see that, and they're like, wow, I wish I could be like that. And so even when sociopaths are doing horrible things that are so unethical, criminal, disturbing, narcissists often will be drawn to that and be like, wow, look at that. I wish I could be more like that. But what they're really wanting is the feeling of being more powerful, and they're wanting their emotional pain to go away because narcissists are basically emotional toddlers. That's kind of where they're at. They have tantrums. They can't handle their emotions on their own. They need other people to do something to make them feel better, and not just like a hug. They need other people to agree with their lie narratives. They need other people to lie and take the blame even if it wasn't their fault. They need other people to lie to them and to do actions that they want done, much like a toddler who's like, give me my favorite cup or I'm going to destroy your life and I'm going to have a tantrum all day long. But they're an adult, right? So they have a lot of emotional pain because they're at that stage and they don't know how to handle their emotions themselves. They don't know how to make any sense out of their emotions or other people's emotions. They don't have that empathy, so they have a very hard time understanding why other people are doing and saying what they're doing. Like, everything is just a shock to narcissists. Why did this happen? Why did they say, oh my gosh? And then they make up lie stories. It must be that I'm too beautiful. That must be why he broke up with me. It's just ridiculous stuff. That's why they idealize the sociopath, because the sociopath is not doing that song and dance. What they don't realize, though, is the sociopath is actually worse than the narcissist, because they have even less empathy. And the thing about empathy is the more you have, the more emotions you are capable of feeling, bad and good. And that's a good thing so long as you know how to handle it. And you know how to handle it because your brain works properly and it has like all the parts working, which lets you handle it. And narcissists don't have that. Brain scans show not only empathy is deficient in their brains, but other things like critical thinking, various kinds of thinking also are broken in their brain. So it's another reason they can't figure their emotions out. Whereas if you just have a normal working brain, you're not overwhelmed by the emotions because you can figure out what they are. You can just feel them and deal with them like an adult. But they are incapable of doing that because their brains are basically, not working right. But it is that flicker of empathy there which gives them the ability to sometimes empathize and sometimes not, which is a benefit. They can connect with people a little bit sometimes. That is so much better than zero. And a sociopath really has that zero where they just can't feel any of that. They just feel almost dead. And that's what a narcissist is idealizing, which is crazy, but it makes sense because they're longing for less pain is why they're idealizing that. They're longing to feel powerful because the assumption is like, if I was powerful, if I was the winner of everything, then I would not feel emotional pain. And that's not true. Even if someone was like the ruler of the universe, that doesn't mean that you're going to get invited to the birthday party. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to like you. People might actually hate you more if you were in that position. So who knows, right? But that's their assumption and that's their fallacy, that if they could just get more power, everything would be happy and perfect. So they're exchanging power for empathy because they can't feel the empathy, so they're substituting it with something else, which is power, control, things like that, which is horrible. Obviously, it was super awful to treat other people that way, but I just do think it's interesting how they're idealizing someone who's actually worse than themselves and has less empathy than they do because they think it would bring them less emotional pain, but they don't see the flip side of that, which is that the sociopaths, in my opinion, are actually suffering more than the narcissists because they just feel like they're dead. They're bored out of their minds. Like, I mean, really try to get your head around this. And I don't think it's something you really can get your head around unless you are a sociopath. Just imagine that you have no sense of right and wrong. You have no sense of caring about other people. You have no concern if someone just like drops dead in front of you. Like your emotional state does not change whatsoever. You have no shame. You could walk outside, not wearing any clothes and just, no concern. And I mean, I really just, I can't emotionally understand that, but I can logically understand that. So if that was your life and you were a sociopath, everything would feel like a video game, but a really boring video game. Like, can you imagine? You walk into this video game and you're like, okay, what's going to happen? Are zombies going to jump out? Or do I have a quest? Or what's going on? Nope. You're just going to sit here. Nothing's ever going to happen. You're just going to sit here, maybe walk back and forth a bit. How long could you play that video game? Not very long. And this is the reason that sociopaths often do such insane stuff that's horrible for society and horrible for other people. But that's why, because they're bored out of their mind. They are blind. Like, they can't see the right and wrong, the empathy, the harm that, they see the harm that comes but it's sort of as if it was in a video game. They just don't care. They don't have that emotional reaction. It's like killing a zombie in a video game if they harm someone. I don't like to think about that topic too much, but and I think that is the reason that narcissists idealize sociopaths, but yet sociopaths are in an even worse state than narcissists in a lot of ways because they're just bored. I mean, narcissists are not bored for the most part because they continue to destroy things, relationships, jobs, families. They just destroy automatically unless they take steps to like step out of that, which they can do with a lot of effort. But narcissists are bored with relationships basically once it's below the surface at all. It's like, who cares? They're very superficial, surface level. And then everything else is boring. But the surface level stuff for them is very interesting to them. And they can run around chasing shiny things all the time and chasing, power and control. And that keeps them from feeling bored. They do get depressed. But sociopaths aren't really depressed. They're just bored out of their minds. And I think that's a reason that so many of them are in prison, which is, this is the thing. It's even worse. They're already bored. Then they do stuff that gets them in the most boring situation you can ever be in. So, anyway, I started thinking about this topic because I was seeing online people talking about the difference between people who are drawn to really dark, disturbing themes in books and movies and things, and people who aren't, who are repelled by that. And my theory is that it's based on how much empathy you have, and the more empathy you have, the more disturbed you are by disturbing themes, because they are disturbing. They're only disturbing if you have empathy, though. You have to have empathy to be disturbed by disturbing things. Otherwise, you won't feel anything from that. They have done studies and found that sociopaths, when they watch something gory, they feel nothing. So this would make a lot of sense then, that they would have no problem with disturbing themes, and they would actually like seek it out for entertainment value, because that's how sociopaths are, right? Remember, they're in the boring video game life. And narcissists, I think, are kind of a mixed bag, because you have the narcissists who do have that flickering empathy. You do have narcissists who are bothered by gore a lot or disturbing themes. You have other narcissists who are kind of closer to that sociopath line. They're like still a narcissist, but they're almost at that sociopath level where they just have a lot less empathy than some other narcissists do. And I think those are the narcissists who just love the disturbing themes as well, because they find it entertaining. They don't find it disturbing. And that's the main thing. And I'm not saying any of this is like bad or good. I'm just saying objectively. Obviously, objectively, it's bad for society when you have people who don't care about the well-being of other people and are willing to harm them with, I won't say willing to harm them. I'll say if they harm them, they don't feel bad about it. They don't have any natural guilt. They don't have natural sense of right and wrong. They're not emotionally harmed by harming other people, which is what happens when you have empathy. You hurt if you hurt other people, emotionally or physically. And when you don't have that empathy part of your brain working, it's like you're blind to all of that. So my conclusion is that most likely that's why some people are really entertained by the most disturbing things you can imagine, and other people are repulsed by it, is how much empathy they have. And I think it's a great clue for figuring out how someone is, as far as what kind of brain do they have. I remember years and years ago, I was dating this guy and we were watching a movie, and a really disturbing theme came on, where in the movie, the guy murdered his wife and was making stuff out of her. And I was like, oh my God, this is like really, and he's like, wow, this is so interesting. What an interesting topic. Oh, wow, I would have never thought of it. It's so creative. Wow. Like as if it was like the coolest arts and crafts he had ever seen. And I was like horrified. First, I was horrified by the movie. I mean, I was disturbed by it. But then seeing him like gleeful, obviously that did not last long. And I didn't like take him to be formally diagnosed or anything. I just, let me just get out of here. Okay, bye-bye. I'm still disturbed even so many years later thinking back on that movie. I don't even remember what it was called, but I just remember my feeling of being like, oh, and then being doubly disturbed that he was just thinking it was the most interesting, fun. So that shows me right there a severe lack of empathy. So I think it's a pretty interesting thing to think about. And of course, like the experts don't really talk about this. I haven't seen it talked about much at all in the media. And when I just did a little bit of research on it, I couldn't find anything as far as studies on disturbing themes and narcissists and sociopaths and like, are they drawn to that? But sure seems to me that the dark triad is drawn to dark themes. I mean, it only makes sense, right? So I think it's a useful thing to use if you're learning about someone new and, you know, understanding what kind of brain they have, as far as protecting yourself. So again, this is not like any professional advice or anything. It's just what I do as a non-psychologist who has just met a lot of people in my life. And I think it's useful, especially because it's not one of the things that they know to hide. They speak so openly about it, like they see no problem with it. Whereas narcissists and sociopaths go to great lengths to hide other things about their characters that they know society does not approve of. But stuff like this, I don't think they realize that it's like indicates something, so that they will just, oh my God, I love when this happens. I love when, that was so entertaining. And like, okay, thanks for telling me. So like, I know how your brain is. And I'm not telling you guys to like instantly judge someone and throw them away because they said one thing once, but if you notice that about somebody, you know, it indicates something, and you can stick around and try to figure out what it indicates, or you can get out of there. That's your own choice. And I mean, there could be exceptions, I'm sure. Like I remember when I watched Fight Club, I don't like any gore at all. So I closed my eyes, you know, this whole thing, with the fight scenes. But in the non-fight scenes, I did think there were some very interesting themes in there, as far as like almost like there being different parts of yourself and kind of talking yourself through things. That part I found very interesting. So all in all, I would say like I liked that movie. So I guess there could be exceptions where they might like something else about the movie and they might not like the disturbing part. So you would probably want to clarify like what they liked about it. But if what they liked about it was the gore or the disturbing themes, and that was like their favorite part, might indicate something. So, but again, this is not advice, and I mean, this is not at all anything that the experts are saying officially. This is just me and my opinion on how to avoid some toxic people. So thanks for watching. I have videos on a bunch of different topics. I have quite a few on narcissism. I'm a life coach, so I have life coaching videos. I have different playlists for everything. So if you're only interested in one topic, you can just look up my playlist and just watch those. I have some other videos on writing and like bullet journals, and I also have ASMR, personality types. I have quite a few different things that I'm interested in, so you can watch different videos on different topics if you want, or you can just stick to the narcissism playlist if you prefer that. Thanks for watching.